Have you heard of the concept of ethnomathematics? Ethnomathematics. Basically, it is a form of mathematics that tries to avoid or get around the racism that is allegedly in normal mathematics. Now, you might say, wait a minute, I didn't realize that normal mathematics is racist. Turns out that normal mathematics is, according to the left, not only racist, but it's actually wrong. Normal mathematics is wrong because it doesn't take into account all the different real-world circumstances that this mathematics is supposed to describe. Now, I'm reflecting here the views of a guy, and this is actually a fellow in the Department of Biostatics at Harvard University. His name is Kareem Carr. And he has advanced the idea that 2 plus 2 is in fact 5. Now, you can be like, wow, too bad Euclid didn't figure this one out. Let's do what mathematicians do, and let's see the proof. Well, as you might imagine, the proof turns out to be somewhat suspect. This fellow, Kareem Carr, and a couple of other people like him who are sort of allies of his, this is their type of reasoning. Normal numbers don't always describe the real world. For example, try to imagine two factories, factory A and factory B, and each of them are manufacturing circular objects. Well, in factory A, you have 2 circular objects and a half circle. And in factory B, you have 2 circular objects and a half circle. So how many circular objects in the first factory? 2. How many in the second? 2. But if you can bring the 2 factories together, then the half circles will combine to create a full circle, and in that way, 2 plus 2 will give you 5. Here's another winning example. You have a man and a woman who get together, and over a period of time, they have a kid. So 1 plus 1 equals 3. Wow! Now, the first thing we have to say when we listen to this kind of stuff, and it's unbelievably dumb, I have to admit. Can you imagine going to somebody like Euclid and telling them 1 plus 1 isn't really 2 because after all you have a husband and a wife and they produce a child, and so you got 3. Euclid is not going to go, man, my proof has been completely contradicted. I better go back to the drawing board. Everyone has known all this. And it raises the question of what mathematics even is. Now, mathematics is based on abstraction. Many years ago, the philosopher Bertrand Russell and Alfred North Whitehead collectively wrote the Principia Mathematica, the Principles of Mathematics, in which they showed that mathematics is a division of pure logic. And mathematical demonstrations rely on the ability, even the most simple demonstrations rely on the ability for your mind to take something that you can see but abstract from it. Take something really simple like this. How many lines can be drawn between 2 points in Euclidean geometry on, let's say, a flat plane? And the answer is 1. But if you think about it, it's not really true. If I take a Sharpie and I make a big fat dot over here, and I take the Sharpie and make a big fat dot over here, I can probably draw 7 lines in between the 2 points. Why? Because the dot over here has dimension, and the dot over here has dimension. So I could make thin lines running between the 2 dots. But the real mathematical point is if I think of a dot as occupying no space, as having no dimensions, as being a mere location, and another dot over here as being a mere location with no width and no breadth, then there is only one line, and the line itself has to be thought of as having no width and no breadth. And that's mathematics. It's the capacity to look at the world and imagine from it these pure entities. Now, why do we do that? Why do we even engage in this kind of imaginary activity? The physicist Richard Feynman explained it very well. I want to read a couple of things that he said. He talks about the fact that the world is divided. He's appealing here to something that the writer C.P. Snow once said, into two cultures. And the two cultures, he says, are really simple. The people who appreciate and understand mathematics and the people who don't. So basically, Feynman is saying is that mathematics is a critically important way to understand the world. Let's say why. He goes, it's too bad that mathematics is hard for some people. Because, says Feynman, I'm quoting him now, if you want to learn about nature, to appreciate nature, it is necessary to understand the language that she speaks in. She offers her information in only one form. Only one form. We are not so unhumble as to demand that she change before we pay any attention. So what Feynman is saying is, nature speaks to us in the language of mathematics. And by understanding mathematics, we can then apply it to the world in which we live. Mathematics, in a way, is at first a little startling. In a famous passage, the philosopher, Debbie's like, I understand it's been startling for me for a long period of time. Dinesh, you do our taxes. But it was the philosopher Hobbes who looked at the Pythagorean theorem, in which in a right triangle, the square of the two sides is equal to the square of the side that joins them. And Hobbes was like, there's no way that's true. That's absurd. And so Hobbes followed the proof step by step by step, and he saw that if each of the links in the chain was correct, the conclusion was unavoidable. And this showed Hobbes the beauty and the power of mathematics. So we have to say that given that mathematics is the way that airplanes fly and GPSs work, I mean, try getting to the moon on ethnomathematics. You're not going to do it. I was a little scared when I saw United Airlines that just issued a statement saying that our flight deck should reflect the diverse group of people on board our planes every day. That's why we plan for 50% of the 5,000 pilots we train in the next decade to be women or persons of color. Look, I'm not against hiring women or persons of color, but any airline that uses the slogan, we put diversity first, is an airline that you don't want to fly on. Now, the reason that we're seeing all this nonsense is for one reason alone, and that is that the attack on math is driven by the racially unequal performance of the ethnic groups that do math. Even when you take into account socioeconomic status, Asian Americans and whites, even from families of modest income backgrounds, do better in math than upper middle class Latinos and blacks. And that's the problem right there. And instead of fixing the problem by saying, okay, what can we do to improve our understanding of math? Better ways to teach math, better ways to help Latino kids and black kids improve their potential, understand math better, do better on the tests. Instead of doing that, it's kind of like saying that baseball is racist. Why? Because Jews and Koreans don't do that well in baseball games. They're underrepresented on the court. We're going to make sure the NBA says that in future, 50% of all the people on the court are going to be Jews and Asian Indians. I mean, nobody does that. Nobody does that. Why? Because the problem isn't with the game. The problem isn't with the height of the net. The problem basically has to do with performance. And that's the same is true with math. Math is actually something that is very important for the world to function. And all that this ethnomathematics nonsense will do is further hold back, further retard the success of minority groups in doing the one thing that they need to do better in our society.